and started playing drums. It's literally like next to the bed. That's all the space that we have. So anytime I want to record, I got to get the camera out, get the lights, set up everything, do the recording, tear it all down. So I try to keep it as simple as I can. My main thing is I want to sound good. It has to sound good. That's almost more important than the video, I think.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Joining me today, Frank Dutcher. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well.
I guess, where are you hailing from?
Antwerp, Ohio.
Oh, you're
it's a
Ohio?
Small village right by the, pretty close to the state line. About a half an hour east of Fort Wayne.
You close to the Pennsylvania border or kind of the southern end of Ohio there?
Indiana.
Oh,
close to Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I guess, how is it this time of the year? Is it starting to warm up out there?
It's in the high 40s, if we're lucky.
It sounds about right here, and that's kind of the same way as it is in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm actually hailing. Are you a big Cincy fan, or do you watch any sports?
No, I don't have time to watch sports.
No, you don't. Actually, the funny story, I actually stumbled upon yours because I actually liked the little anime picture that your thumbnail had. Actually, it was more strictly on Facebook, too, I guess. What sort of character is that, or is that just kind of made up?
That character is named Morgana. Morgana is a cat character from the video game Persona 5.
Okay. I would say I have not played that game, but I would say I am a fan of anime, too, so I had to say,
yeah,
I actually really dig that, too. And I saw you're also a drummer, so it was good to add you, too. So welcome to my podcast here, Frank. So the way my podcast works is I'm just going to ask you some simple questions, and we'll get to know you more both as the individual and as the musician, too. So I got them right here. You ready to roll?
Sure.
All right, so we'll start with the first one. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become a drummer?
When I was around 7 or 8 years old, I went to a babysitter, and her son played. And he had his drum set out and had MTV, and he would always be playing around along to Sweet Child of Mine. And every time I saw him play, I was just staring at what he was doing, staring at the music video, wondering who the girl was, whatever. Like 7 or 8 years old, I'm like, man, that's so cool. I want to do that. Like, he kind of let me play around on his kit once in a while. So technically, I started playing when I was 8 years old. But he was my first influence.
Oh, really? I guess. What was the kid's name?
Yeah. Clarence Lavelle. He's a bit older than myself now. He was probably a teenager when I was at that house. He was the first person I saw play drums. And after that, I went through a little more grade school and got into the summer in between 5th and 6th grade, and I almost became a trombone player. And I'm like, no, that's too hard. I just want to hit stuff. And there you have it. Got my first snare drum and started splitting heads in half and having zero technique and no skills, but it was fun.
Oh, that's how it started right there, I guess. Did you take up percussion then, like with the timpani or any of those other wood?
I ended up learning all the stuff. Wasn't very good at xylophone though, because I always had to look at the stuff and I couldn't read the music at the same time. I went through the band program through middle school and high school, and so I'm mostly classically trained. When I was around 16, I decided I wanted to learn how to use my feet too, and I just started to play drum set there. So it was very difficult at first because my feet were like, what do I do? And my hands were like, yeah, I can do all this stuff. And
I was
a little unbalanced.
I was going to say, were you also part of like the drum line that would also play on the fields during half times of the football?
Yeah.
So yeah, you would get used to it with like just the hands and everything too, but yeah, it's kind of a culture shock with the feet at that point.
When you start having to use your feet, it's like I'm not walking. What do I do with these pedals? So it took me about a couple years to learn how to actually play a drum kit at all.
Oh man,
because of just being unbalanced.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
The way you kind of described the story too, with like the MTV, was he like just banging on the pots and pans at the time, or was he like using something else?
Oh no, he had a full drum kit.
Oh, he did.
He had a full drum kit, and he would play in sync to what I can't remember the drummer's name on Appetite for Destruction. Chris Alder or something like that, or Steve Alder. He would play along to that drummer's drumming, the exact hits and everything. And that was about the only song he played to. Every time the video would come on, he would get out his drumsticks and sit down and play along to it.
Just strictly that song too. I mean, like nothing else, because MTV really
that was like his favorite one. That was their big video back then. That's about the only thing that like was on MTV repeatedly from that band was "Sweet Child of Mine," as far as I know.
Well, it's funny because like Guns N' Roses, like Appetite Destruction seemed like that was like their apex. Like you could say like the rest of the albums were like okay with like some songs here and there, but it seemed like Appetite for Destruction was like whew, that sort of thing. So you would think it would be like Welcome to a Jungle would also probably be on there too. So
yeah, but for whatever reason, that was the one he liked playing to.
Hey, it's still a good song. In fact, drums are pretty fun to play with on that one too. So, and I think I see your set behind you. I guess what sort of set do you play with?
That let me duck to the side so you can see a little better. That is a Tama Club Jam Flyer. 14-inch kick drum, the snare and the floor tom are 10 inches. Again, you little 8-inch tom. It's the perfect size for when you got to clean because it's so small and so easy to move. I record it with a Yamaha E8010, which is a little trigger and mic thing that you put on the kick drum, and it mics the whole kit, gives you compression and all sorts of things. It's a really easy to use system. You don't need any extra stands, and it works wonderfully.
Is that a hybrid
I used
set?
to have a... Huh?
No, sorry. What were you going to say? I was going to ask is that a hybrid set, but what were you going to say?
Oh, it's not really a hybrid set. I don't have any other additional triggers on it. I have some, but they didn't work well, so yeah. I used to use a snare mic as well that I combined with it, but I sold all my interfaces and mixers and equipment because money and space and all that. So anyhow, that's what I have. I used to be into E-drums for years and years and years and years and years, but I wanted to try Yamaha's E8010, so I had to sell my electric kit to get the money. I played the big Roland kits and Yamaha kits and Alesis and all that kind of stuff for probably a good 20 years before I started really getting into just having acoustic drums. I went kind of back and forth. Mainly I prefer E-drums, but if you only have space for one kit, you have to choose. If I want to, I can actually turn that into an E-drum kit using the A8010. I just haven't yet. Oh.
It's just a simple flick of a switch. Is that how easy it would be?
You got to push. You got to put mesh heads on and triggers.
Okay. So then it would kind of be like a quasi hybrid set in a way, yeah.
Yeah. You have all the hookups in the back of that module to do it. It's just different than your standard E-drums because it's not pads.
Okay. I was going to say...
I would then set up stuff, so probably not going to happen.
Okay. Sorry, I'm jumping in too quick. Actually, I hear these long pauses, too. That caused me to jump in, too. So, but I was going to ask, what was the brand of the E-kit you had for a good while there?
I'm a Yamaha guy. I've played Roland, Oasis, and all that, but any E-kit I've had has been Yamaha. We actually have a Facebook group for that. My wife and I. It's called the Yamaha DTX Drums Group. There's I think we're going on 5,000 members now.
All right, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I've been rolling with the Roland for a good while too, and I'd say those are a bit pricey, I guess. So where's Yamaha in terms of prices? Are they pretty moderate?
Yamaha's flagship is around $3,000 less than Roland's.
That's pretty fair. I mean,
Roland offers some stuff that Yamaha does not. But if you put them next to each other, they're going to be neck and neck, I think. Honestly, that's what got me into Yamaha, to be honest, because the price is 30% less money for somewhat of a similar experience. I mean, if you're trying not to break the bank. The first one I played, I think, was the DT Extreme Special way back when, at the church that I played for at the time bought it. The Roland TD20 whatever at the time was like $7,000, and Yamaha's special kit was $4,000. So there you go.
It's a big
And it
difference.
never broke, so I'm like, hey, this doesn't break and it doesn't cost as much, so I guess I'll play Yamaha drums.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's.
Yeah,
I don't want to say like night and day, but I guess just in terms of prices, then that would be the sort of wording you would use in that case. So I see what you mean.
yeah.
It's funny we mentioned Yamaha because I guess did you experiment with MIDI back in the day when you do any sort of drum covers?
Um, I have used addictive drums. I actually used them on my the TTX kit that I had a while back. There's quite a few videos using that. So I guess a little bit. I experimented for about a year before I got rid of the kit. It was really nice having all that, but the amount of extra equipment you have to have is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Sometimes you have to have the interface, you have to have a computer, you have to have the right cables and more space and all that. And sometimes you just want to sit down and play.
Yeah, but even still, like I think even doing like the acoustic way, you have to like have all the microphones, but even having like the thing that records everything at a good sound too. Because I know a couple of
Yeah.
my friends actually use something similar to what you have. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it kind of adds like a little bit of a punchy sound to it too. So I'm not too sure if that's the
Hmm.
compression involved in it. But my point was what I was going to say earlier was it's funny we mentioned about Yamaha because I use Superior Drummer for my MIDI whenever I'm doing my drum covers and stuff like that
Hmm.
too. And I've actually messed around with the Yamaha acoustic sets that are into the Superior Drummer. So I've always used it for
Yeah.
I've always used it before my bass, and I'm not sure why I can't seem to shake it because I'm always thinking like, man, I need that lower, but I can't seem to want to change it. So I don't know, something about Yamaha
Uh,
that has you coming back. So I can see what you mean. So
yeah. Nowadays, I honestly, and I've done use this for a while. I use a Zoom Q8 camera that's got inputs in the back where you can hook up microphone cables and all that, and I just run the stereo out from the E8010 right to that Zoom camera, and it syncs the audio and video for you. It actually gives you a little bit richer of a sound. So that's pretty simple. I don't even have to have a mixer. Just run it straight.
straight right into it. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Do
and it
you?
records to an SD card. Plug the camera in, and you're done.
I was gonna say, do you like film at just one angle, or do you try to mix it up at times?
I usually only do one. There's one video out there where I did three angles. That's the only time I was able to get it to work. After that, my computer decided it didn't like me and I couldn't sync it again. So I went back to one.
It's like no more. It's too much, or that sort of thing.
I, I guess with as much as was working for a while, when I have the time to record, I want to sit down and go. And one with a wide angle or fisheye lens, one gets it done. I like showing the foot cam and all that kind of stuff and front and back views and whatever, but if you can't leave it set up all the time, it's best just have one.
Mm. Especially now, I guess. How big's your family right now? I guess you have a couple kids and taking care of the wife
Uh,
as well.
I have two adult children. My daughter's married and she's on her own. Our son still lives with us. So it's three people here. It's a pretty small place, the one we just moved to. So if you can't tell, I literally get out of bed and start playing drums. It's literally like next to the bed. That's all the space that we have. So anytime I want to record, I got to get the camera out, get the lights, set up everything, do the recording, tear it all down. So I try to keep it as simple as I can. My main thing is I want to sound good. It has to sound good. That's almost more important than the video, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I was just picturing too, like it would be sort of a cartoon sort of thing. Like you just whip the covers back, you just slide right over, you just get right into your throne right there, and you just hop right
You
into the drum
know, I
set.
mean, as long as I don't trip over the thing, it's all good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong, then that just kind of ruins your day at that point. So I can see.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. That's actually a cool setup, but I have to admit, the sizes actually caught me by surprise because I'm always used to like everything being so big, having a nice big circumference and
Yeah.
everything too. So I have to admit, yours, the sizes kind of surprised me a little bit. So I guess, do you ever have those instances where you accidentally miss and you accidentally either lose your stick or just kind of
Yes,
whiff and you have to like start over?
definitely. I for years I was used to these massive drums. The smallest one I ever had was probably a 12-inch. So sometimes it's like, am I really going to be able to hit the center of that very small thing? After a couple of years of using a kit like that, you get used to it. You learn to actually aim, and it makes you more precise. So I appreciate that. But if I had the space, I've had the gargantuan kit with the 13-inch rack tom and a 24-inch bass drum and all that. I mean, I'd love to have that, but dang gum, if you want to pick that up, it's too much weight.
I guess you could
As
really
long
like
as I
fit
can
in the
get a
kit.
good sound, I'll play on the smallest kit I can.
I was gonna say, could you like fit it like in the man cave or the garage if you wanted to get a big set like that, or are you kind of tight
I
on space?
could, but there's a car in there now, so someday.
Someday. All right.
Yeah.
We'll just put it on the back burner for now. But you did kind of mention about like some of the equipment you use in terms of like making a drum cover. So I guess what sort of music are you kind of into whenever you're want to like make a drum cover and stuff like that?
I've done a lot of video game music, specifically from the Persona series that Morgana character is from. Um, I've done live streaming in that series where I literally play for like 1 or 2 hours of that music off of YouTube. Um, Once in a while, I'll take a pop song request. Like my last video that I did was the Miley Cyrus song "Flowers." I actually had that request from someone in the Philippines that's a fan of mine, so that's kind of cool. I'll take requests once in a while, but usually I'm either doing some kind of free drumless track stuff that doesn't have any vocals, or I will jump on video game music because it's just a lot of fun to play too. I'm a huge gamer myself, and sometimes it's nice to connect with the game in a different way. And if I can combine that with my love of music and playing drums, it's a win-win scenario. I actually have a playlist of video game songs from the Persona series that's about 4 hours long that I plan on live streaming sometime this summer, probably, once I can get set up for it. I'll probably pass out afterwards, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, maybe. And you just keep playing.
Nah, I would say get a nice little water break here and there. Just don't have somebody like
Oh,
try
gosh,
feeding you
yeah.
a banana at some point. So near that, just put the fan like off to the side right here, just have it blow right on you too. So I guess what do you use for live streaming? Are you strictly like OBS and stuff like that?
To go with YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I'm pretty sure I've used OBS. I don't know if I used both of them at the same time. There's some stuff I'm probably going to have to get with my son, who helps me a lot with that kind of stuff, and say, hey, man, what was I using back then, like 2 years ago or whatever?
Memories a bit foggy, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I actually tried doing I used to do OBS for my live streams when I was just doing simple bass covers. It would only be like maybe 15, 20 minutes because it always seems like you have to like have like the countdown in the beginning where it's like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
and then afterwards you're probably just BSing for a moment before you like start playing. So,
Yeah.
but I guess have you done video games on live stream too?
I've done some actual video game playing. I think I did a Q&A one time when there was literally no one watching me, so I just broke out Diablo 3 and started killing stuff because I was bored. Just trying to keep the momentum going. But usually I'll be playing my drum set to some kind of music. That's mostly what my channel is known for, so
We got Slay Them Demons and Diablo. So
yeah.
I've actually never played those ones. In fact, like a little while to be honest.
Yeah.
But you know what I really wish they would put on? Actually, I wish they put a couple games on there because for some reason, the one game that always came back to me in my mind was, did you know a game called Black?
I do. I have not played it, but I've heard of it.
This one was a pretty much a shoot 'em all sort of thing, and like you're able to like explode the environments, do all that crazy shit. And I don't know why I kept popping up in my mind because I remember playing it when I was a lot younger on the PS2, and I think it drove me crazy. But I was even playing it on easy, and it was still driving me crazy. So I think it's just a nostalgia now, to be honest. I think that's why I like to say let's replay.
Yeah.
Kind of doing a play
Most
on there.
times I'll pick something up like that for maybe 10 minutes or at a time, but I don't stick with it because I already beat it 10 years ago or whatever it is.
I really want to beat it again just because I want to see how different it feels this time around. I think after I beat it the first time, I was just like, oh, thank God, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I think afterwards I'll be like, oh, that's new. So you find something you haven't really noticed before. So
Yep.
All right. But I guess just trying to make sure not to jump too crazy here because I'm kind of going off on a tangent on video games at
Oh,
this
that's
point.
fine.
I mean, it's good too because I guess you say you were big into Sony? I guess did you start with the PlayStation 1 and work your way up to that point?
Way back in the day, I was a Nintendo fanboy. I hated everyone. It was if it wasn't Nintendo, I didn't want anything to do with it. But then I was in Toys R Us and I picked up a gaming magazine and saw a review of Final Fantasy VIII, and then I'm like, I gotta play it. And within about 2 to 3 months, I was in GameStop buying a PlayStation 1 and Final Fantasy VIII. And I loved that game and still do enough that when my copy got scratched, I went out and bought a new one. When my stepson who was like 7 or 8 at the time, lost a disc, I went out and bought a whole new version of the game because I had to have it. I actually ended up buying the game on Steam recently as well. Although that converted me to PlayStation. I still did Dreamcast and Xbox and all that kind of stuff for Forza and Sonic the Hedgehog and all that, but Final Fantasy converted me to a PlayStation guy. The only reason why I got rid of my PlayStation 4 is that the only game on there that wasn't on Steam already was Persona 5 that I really cared about. And so I'm like, it's going to come. It's going to come out on Steam. It's going to happen. So I sold it, and the game actually just came out on Steam or Switch or whatever the heck, maybe 6 months ago. So I'm like, why do I need a PS4? It's literally sitting there collecting dust. Every single game I have for that console I can buy on Steam right now. So why not just get a PC, really powerful PC, and just have one thing? And I mean, honestly, it saves space. It's one less thing to have to clean, have to deal with, and yeah. I still want a PS5 though.
Do you?
Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive.
Is it? No.
Yes. And it's out, I think, sometime this year, and it's not coming to PC, so I need a PS5. My wife does not agree with that, but I need one anyway.
It's like must have PlayStation 5 or that sort of thing. Final Fantasy always struck me. The stories are always good. I have to admit that, but it always strikes me as odd because it's not like a continuous storyline. It always seems like go off like a different planet or something, or maybe a different part of the world. I'm not really sure. I never really understood it, but the stories were always great. But I'm just trying to understand it too, because
there are a few games that have continuing stories. I know 10 does, because that got a sequel. 13 was a trilogy.
7? Or was that just one?
7 has got the remake that came out a couple years ago, which is kind of like a retelling or reimagining of the story, I believe. Then I think the online one, 14, has got all kinds of spin-offs and sequels and stuff. But generally speaking, each Final Fantasy is its own story, own characters. Some of the themes and the names of monsters and stuff continue, but it's its own separate game. That I'm going off on a tangent. Now, the reason why it's called Final Fantasy is that when Squaresoft was formed, they were about ready to shut down, and if Final Fantasy had not sold well back in the mid-'80s, they would have been done. So they called it Final Fantasy was literally almost going to be their final game. Yeah.
And by stroke of luck, it actually ended up being a big seller for
definitely.
them. And lo and behold, now we're at, 18 or 19 now?
The one coming out will be number 16.
16.
It's not the 16th game. There are a whole lot more than that. I think back when I did a term paper or whatever on the Final Fantasy series back in 2003 or 4, there was 20 or 30 games because of all the spin-offs and sequels and ports and this and that. It's ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely not final at all. There's no finality to it.
It's just catchy at this point. Now the name just catchy, so. Or just do FF. So now you just abbreviate now to its initials. So
yep.
I think it was Final Fantasy 7. I think I actually saw a little I don't want to say montage, but it was a Cradle of Filth song playing in the background. So it was actually pretty catchy. I admit that was actually a pretty damn good video too. So I think it was Apsiva Faust. I think that was the name of the Cradle of Filth song. So you might have to dig with it, but I don't know if you're really into metal or anything like that. So
I actually am.
Do you like metal?
I don't listen to Cradle of Filth, but I'm a huge metal guy.
Okay, so what sort of metal are you into?
Most of what I've been listening to lately is European stuff. Bands like Amaranth, Serenia, Dynasty. Who else? Going over to Japan, get into really weird stuff like baby metal.
I have heard baby
That's
metal, yeah.
also Crossfaith. I by 4 or 5 years ago, I was really big into Nightwish.
I think I know them, yeah.
Um, there's so many bands. Mostly, most of what I listen to is either over in Asia or over in Europe. I'm not really into too much American music anymore, except for maybe Megadeth and Testament.
Oh, do you like the
But
old school thrash?
yeah, I listen to a lot of metal, but I don't play drums to it. I know that sounds weird, but I am not a metal drummer. I'm more of a fusion, acid jazz, that kind of stuff drummer. But when I listen to music, I choose metal.
Okay, I see.
Like the polar opposite.
Yeah, it's like that's what I want to play, but like I listen to a lot of the heavier stuff that comes out of like it always seems like it's either like UK or like the Scandinavian region where like the majority of it comes out, even though it's like some in between like Germany, Poland, maybe a couple from Italy and France or something like that too. But it's like mainly UK and Scandinavia. That's where like the big names all seem to come out of. So especially with like when you saw, I think today even on the radio, I was hearing like a new wave of British heavy metal when there was like the Motorhead and Venom and all those guys were coming out. So I just felt good actually re-listening to that kind of stuff, and it's like, damn, it's still good. So
of course.
But for me, I'm actually more to the American side of the metal scene. As you can, I don't know if you've seen my channel or any of some of the drum covers I've done, but I have done a couple out of the UK. Well, I guess you know Bolt Thrower.
I do not.
I recommend checking them out. They actually nice little kind of talk about sort of war and that sort of things too. Like, something to get the blood going and stuff. It's always fun music to play too. So we did get off on a couple tangents.
I actually just subscribed to you maybe 2 days ago. I didn't even know who you were when you messaged me. I'm like, wait a minute, this has got to be a drummer from Facebook. Oh, okay, yeah, he's a drummer from Facebook. Let me go subscribe, and yeah, I'll talk to the guy. Why not?
And I'm actually glad you responded. And actually, I was surprised when you couldn't do it on the weekend too. But I guess your work schedule is a little bit odd.
I work at Sweetwater Sound in Fort Wayne. Big music store. I work on their weekend shift, so every Saturday and Sunday I'm working from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And when I get home, I'm generally just dead. A lot of walking. Good, almost 10 miles a day.
Oh gosh, you work with Sweetwater. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I started working there about a year and a half ago.
I was going to say, like, we always get like the little magazines from time to time, always like advertising all their materials they're trying to sell us, even though the price, at least for me at least, seems a little bit over the top. I think your products sell in even like some of the general music stores in around our neck of the woods too. So I think it's still kind of a win-win for you. So maybe we'll just split the price or something like that. So I'm not too sure, but Sweetwater's, I know, a respectable brand, so I recommend it to everybody. But I guess speaking of the brands, what sort of brand are your sticks?
I use, actually, let me get my stick bag. Like, there's 2 or 3 brands that I use.
I guess, is it a new brand I haven't heard of? Because I've been surprised about a couple so far.
The senior management of fulfillment on weekend shift gave me a set of On-Stage sticks. I'm not sure if you know the brand On-Stage. They make a lot of music stands, guitar stands, and really just cheap stuff to get you going. They got nylon tips, so they're really good on the bells of the cymbals. I also have the Daru Jones Ahead signature model. And then when my hands get really tired, I use Zildjian 5B anti-vibes. Those are my main go-getters. I also have some of the Ahead rock sticks that are nylon rods. I don't know if you know what ProMark heart rods are. This is basically the same thing, but they're nylon, so they literally don't break. I'll use just about anything if I can hang on to it. It doesn't really matter to me as long as it gets the job done, so I'm not too picky. So I do a lot of experimenting with sticks. I don't necessarily have a preferred brand as long as they work for me. So I actually eventually want to get into vinyl stick and brush once all my standard wood sticks wear out because I've heard they've got some pretty interesting things. So I might try some of them out later this year.
I actually roll with the Vic Firth ones. I guess have you ever experimented with those in the beginning?
I used to use a lot of Vic Firth jazz sticks, the AJ2s and stuff like that. And growing up, I was in a lot of Vic Firth. I started getting into Zildjian when they had those dip sticks that had the rubber coating on them to help you hold onto the stick. And then when I saw anti-vibes, I'm like, well, heck, man, I'm getting older. I gotta have something easy to play with, and they soak up the strokes a lot. So, but I used Vic Firth stuff for years because that's what the schools recommended and whatnot. And my favorite sticks I've ever used was actually the Wicked Piston. It was just Mike Mangini's signature stick. The only problem with them is I broke the tips all the time. I don't understand it. My right cymbal tip, I don't know if I was just hit too hard, but they would just disintegrate. It's like, it's a good thing these are only $10 a pair because, I mean, the quality ain't there. But, wow, I tell you what, you can really make some noise with those sticks.
Yeah, I gotta imagine too. But that's what I always thinks about it too, is because like for me, it seems like I go through a pair maybe a good few months before mine actually break. Yeah, and I think that's what I would say Vic First, like the industry standard or whatever they want to call it too. I have actually heard of ProMark. I don't know, are they still in operation or are they?
ProMark is.
Okay.
ProMark is not as widely known anymore, but they're still very much in operation. Another big one is Vader. Vader's actually gotten a really big following. I know this because I literally put the drumsticks away for work. So I see all the different brands and stuff when I'm putting them on the shelves and whatever. I'm like, well, you see a whole lot of Vader.
Vater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that how it's actually pronounced?
That's how it is pronounced in German. But
okay.
It's funny when people were doing that too, because I'm thinking, like, are you spelling it Vader like Darth Vader, for instance? But
then, my goodness.
It's a Vater, so it's Vater, which means actually father in German.
That makes a little more sense.
So I think now we have to like correct everybody who's been using those sticks.
I appreciate that.
No worries. So that would be free of charge. So at least there you go. There's a nice little lesson. Maybe correct everybody at Sweetwater who's accidentally pronouncing it that way too. So
I'm probably the only one who does. I mean, to most people, it's just like, well, here's something. It's a drumstick. We'll put it over here, and yeah.
Okay.
Being a drummer, I'm like, oh, I got to look at this drumstick, and here's this tip, and maybe I want to buy one of these, and yeah, it's a big distraction.
Okay, so there you go. We at least corrected that. I guess let's see. Have you actually played in any bands, like any sort of cover bands, for instance?
Most of my drumming, I'd say a good 80 to 90% of my drumming is in the church. I spent about 23 years playing for Liberty Bible Church in Chesterton, Indiana. That's the church that I grew up in. My mother actually literally contacted the associate director of music and say, hey, I want my son to play in church. And then I did that for about 23 years. That's most of my drumming. The other drumming that I did was in school. I was in a band with some of my buddies in high school that did some Green Day and Pearl Jam stuff, just playing around for the girls and trying to get chicks and whatnot in high school. After that, I really didn't. Never did the bar thing or cover bands and all that. It was always church music. I done a little bit of professional studio work some years back where I played on a couple albums of a lesser-known band called Bucket List. I'm not sure if I have anything up online on that. I did a drum cover of one of their songs. I'd have to find the video because it's really old. But they're still active. It's pretty much a guy up on top, up in his studio above his hair salon that brings people up and records music and whatnot. They don't play any shows. They just record. Well, that was kind of cool. I got a little bit of money out of it. It covered my travel expenses. I'm pretty much a volunteer drummer for the most part, which is fine.
I guess would you ever consider being like a session musician if you wanted to do something like that?
If I found the right outlet for it, sure, why not? I haven't. The
Mm.
only outlet I had was back when I lived in Porter County, Indiana, and now we're out in Ohio, so I kind of left that gig. I've tried hooking up with a few people, but most people are just too busy working and all that, and they want to do their own thing, and they don't want to collab, and everyone's weird, or it's a girl and I'm a guy, and I don't know, you know. So I'm kind of in a little bit of state of flux with drumming because I'm not playing with anyone. I haven't really played with anyone in probably almost a year now.
Mm.
I was working second shift. The church I was playing in decided he wanted to have Wednesday night rehearsals, and obviously I couldn't do that, so I was not asked to come back. And I actually haven't been to church since August because I was working 2 jobs, weekend shift and then another part-time job and all that. And it's just honestly just so busy. I need to get away from that because I miss being on stage. I really do.
Mm. Even though
But
it
for
was
a
a
time,
simple church stage too.
yeah, for a time it's okay. But about another year of it, I'm gonna be like, man, I gotta play with people. It's just always better that way. The YouTube channel that I run was started when we moved from Indiana to Ohio to keep me playing because I had no idea what the future held. Oh, that was legitimately the reason why I started my YouTube channel, Frank's Drum Cave or whatever it's called, like 3 years ago. Is if I don't do this, I'm literally not going to play at all because I had no idea if I was going to play again after we left that church. I had no idea if I was going to be in groups or anything like that. Literally no clue. So that was a way to keep me not being rusty. Turned into a whole lot of friendships and stuff like that I'm definitely grateful for, but that's how it started. Like, what do I do? Yes, I'm going to go do that, and so I can keep playing.
I was gonna say too, yeah, it also opened you up to the YouTube community too, I guess. So you did kind of jump
Yeah.
into that question too, I guess. Is there something you hope to achieve with your YouTube channel? Or is it just mainly help with your sanity?
I would love to get back into live streaming and do that mainly just to hang out with people and have fun playing drums. That's honestly what I want to do. I need to get some equipment for that and whatever. But I'd like to get heavy into that within about another month or two and just do that. I don't really like recording. I'd rather be live. Honestly, though, if I got the opportunity to be on stage or tour or do session or music or anything like that, YouTube would probably go on a hiatus because I'd rather be playing with people.
It's good to have friends, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see.
But
That's actually-
when I got into live streaming about a year ago, I absolutely fell in love with it. It's so much fun. Being able to chat with people, answer questions, play along to different stuff. Yeah, it's probably just a bunch of drum covers strung together, but it's a lot more fun than this. Like, here's this dude with this one song and he gets buried on YouTube and it's only 5 minutes and I'm going to watch it for 30 seconds and not care. If you get interactive with people, it establishes a much stronger connection, I think.
Yeah, you would be right about that, even though some of the music I usually delve into, I would say, is probably music that's not played like a whole lot or is not covered a whole lot.
Uh-huh.
So you're hoping that maybe there's some exposure like right then and there. So I can also see what you mean, like trying to also be interactive with like the live streams. But I have to say, the thing that kind of did me in was I was trying to do like a Halloween special, and this was last year. And for some reason, I just couldn't get the sound like to come through on OBS. So I got stressed out. So I figured like hell this. So I'm not stressing myself out just to try to get this working. But now maybe at some point I would like to bring it back. So not sure if we mold that in with like I do my drum covers on Fridays. So
yeah.
Do you still have a consistency?
If you do get back into that live streaming, I would bring someone else in to run the tech side of it for you that really knows what he's doing or she's doing. Then you could just play. It's very difficult to focus on your drumming and worry about that laptop that might just decide to go and then your live stream's gone. We actually had one a while ago where I asked my wife to help. She wasn't available, and I set up everything. And I guess one of us forgot to turn the audio on. So for like a good 20 minutes into the live stream, there was no audio, just video. And somebody hit the comments and said, "Hey, we can't hear you." I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, well, let me go into be right back. And I would have definitely appreciated help with that. But that can be hard to find. But
Well, especially tough
it's
too if
good.
you.
It's good to have a partner for something like that because live streaming is a lot more involved.
That is true, and I think the problem is you want to make sure you have somebody who's actually tech savvy.
Of
And
course.
since I live with the parents, it not the most tech savvy, but they at least know how to do like the general stuff, like just going on and finding the sites and then file your taxes and stuff like that. So that's at least the extent of the tech savviness that they at least have. But in terms of
Yeah,
like,
maybe not Twitch or Restream or YouTube. Maybe not.
I think more so OBS because I think I use the free version of Restream, which just connects to like Twitch and YouTube because fortunately it allows you to at least do like two platforms for at least the free version, so that's at least good. And I really didn't say I need to like do it like anything else. So I figured like, oh, I'll just do it Twitch and YouTube, just do it that way. So
Yeah.
maybe at some point I
That
might
software
alter it.
works incredibly well because you can have both of them going on, linked to those sites. You don't have to have the other stuff open necessarily, and then you have your chat for everything right there. At least I remember of it, and it worked really well for me.